Welcome to the Fishbowl Radio, everybody. My name is Chief here, and joining me today is Juicy. We are going to be doing our Sunbelt Conference preview of 2023, and we're also going to be talking about some conference realignment with the Pac-12. ACC might be getting involved, so we'll see what's happening here today. Without further ado, let me introduce everybody to Juicy. How you doing today, Juicy?
Oh, I'm good, man. How you?
Oh, I'm doing very good here so far. Let's talk about this for a second, Juicy here. It's gonna be one of those
Recording in progress.
it's gonna be one of those things here that we have to, talk about here and what you think is gonna happen with the Pac-12. I think that's one thing that everybody needs to figure out. And the ACC. Maybe Florida State might be going to the Big Ten or to Miami, or Clemson might be going to the SEC.
Florida State, Washington, and I forgot somebody else.
Oregon was also mentioning that. Arizona's mentioned going to Big 12. There's a lot going on. What's your thoughts on this?
Geographically, they're not. Well, I think geographically they're not really made to. I mean, you'd have Florida State traveling all the way to Washington or vice versa, or to Oregon and vice versa. I mean, geographically, uh, it wouldn't even really make sense, honestly. But hey, I guess willing to spend the money and make the money and the revenue, you're willing to do whatever it takes. But I mean, it's good for the Big Ten for sure. They would really bump their bump their competition up. I think it would put them a lot closer to competition with the SEC. But the Pac-12, I think the Pac-12 is gonna have to do like what the Big 12 did. Either find some teams to move in or get or or dissolve into or teams or just dissolves into other conferences. So either find some teams or get left behind, basically, what the Pac-12 is in right now.
I mean, it's going to be kind of one of those things. Um, I think you have to really look at and see what's actually going to happen here. So, with all that going on, the Sun Belt's in an interesting spot here. They had some lists come out saying Sun Belt's the top G5 conference in the entire country here. So, but the payout for the Pac-12 is what came out here. Apple wanted to do on their streaming service that they have was going to come around 22 million, which is pretty low compared to other Power Five conferences like the Big 12, which they're going to look like they're going to poach some other teams here. So I think that here's what I honestly think that the end result's going to be once everything's done shuffling, and I've said this 2 years ago on this very podcast here. So I'm repeating myself from 2 years ago. I said that there was going to be two big conferences. I thought there was going to be the Big Ten, and I thought there was going to be the SEC. They're literally going to separate. Maybe not. There's going to be like 50 schools. There's going to be about 50 schools, okay? And then there's going to be everybody else below
I
that
know
50
one,
school mark.
I know one thing: the SEC ain't going nowhere. You don't have to worry about the SEC ever going nowhere. They they're pretty solid. It
Uh,
just depends on what other companies.
I just don't. And I think well that's what's gonna end up happening. I think there's gonna be a divide somewhere. Now I don't know what's gonna happen below that 50. You might have other conferences. It'll be like the new FCS basically. I think once we get to year 2030 or further along down the path here, you're gonna have like if the Big 12 stays in this race here with them and they're able to survive because for a while people thought the Big 12 was gonna be dead, but they managed to survive and
They
able
may
to
pull
continue
some
on.
schools in Colorado back. So
But what helped the Big 12 a lot was getting Houston, UCF, Cincinnati made it to the college football playoff.
but
You so like these schools here were not like they could play with the Power Five schools, and I mean, they made the good bet there. They made their best bet doing that kind of thing here. So I can see the ACC getting rated, but that becomes a question now. The Sun Belt might be in a bad spot in regards to the ACC. If the ACC gets rated, the ACC is going to really tell the tale because I don't think the Pac-12 is going to come in there and take App State, Georgia Southern, the Cajuns, Coastal
no, that's
Carolina.
pretty much geographic.
it would be kind of like harder for them to work in a deal. But the conference I would be concerned about if I was the Sun Belt would be the ACC conference. I'm not worried about the American because I think the American conference is going to be like another conference USA here, which they basically replaced what the conference USA was before this last shift. The realignment was before. They didn't add anybody differently than that really made a big deal about it. I think too much here. Conference USA was the big loser this time around with the conference realignment. Sunbelt was definitely the winner. But I could see App State joining the ACC. I could see Coastal Carolina joining the ACC here within the next couple of years. Maybe Georgia Southern, maybe Georgia State if they could ever get like.
I think they'll really like ramp up their revenue and their recruiting for sure.
I could see that happening on the east side of the conference. I think the window for the Cajuns to jump to a Power Five is closing. I think they got to the year 2030 to make something happen, which is 7 years down the road. It's going to depend. Now, what conference will that be? Will the Big 12 expand out and do like this 2014 conference? I don't
You think
know.
UL would what conference do you think UL would land in?
If I was UL, I don't think they're going to get into the SEC. I don't think SEC wants another Louisiana
I think
school. LSU is
UL
not going to want them in there anyway. I think LSU would be completely against UL going in there. I
I
think
think the Big
UL's
12
bet. I think the best bet for the Big 12, if they were looking to expand into the state of Louisiana, would be to grab. I don't think it would be the Cajuns though. I think it'd be Tulane. Uh, right now, I say the Cajuns are right behind Tulane based on recent success. And this is coming from
How
somebody
about the
that,
it, it wouldn't be terribly out the way for the ACC.
yeah, it's kind of like, but it's kind of a run though. It just depends on how far out
If
the
they start
ACC.
poaching Sunbelt, I'm saying if they start poaching some of these Sunbelt schools,
What some about schools think they would poach Juicy?
well, like you mentioned, Coastal, App State, James Madison, even
Yeah,
maybe.
James Madison. Yeah, they might be
Um,
one of those in the future that could be a potential target.
I wouldn't even surprise if we like you said, Georgia State, Georgia Southern. I mean, Georgia Tech in the ACC. So why would they not go after Georgia Southern or Georgia State?
You also got South Alabama and Southern Miss. If they, it depends how far west they want to go. Troy's right there in Alabama as well. So I could see it happen. I mean that's one thing we'll have to keep an eye out on. It's just something to kind of ponder out and think about. But while we're on the topic of the Sun Belt, let's talk about the Sun Belt this year, Juicy. Troy's the defending Sun Belt champion. Here and they return a good bit of their starters so far this year on well, especially on defense here. Um, so Juicy, what is let's talk about this for a second here. So let's pull this up here real quick here. So I'm gonna pull up Athlon because they have a very good they did a Sun Belt preview, and I'm gonna go look and see what they think's gonna happen here because Athlon has a very good magazine, very good information there to pull for your Sun Belt conference here. So, but I hate doing preseason stuff. This is just guesswork based on what you did last year. Now,
But it's
granted, it
something they
gets
get done
everybody
every.
excited. So Coastal Carolina's the favorite to win the East Division, which I still think James Madison is the team though. Um, so they have, but because Coastal's bringing in a new head coach this year as well. That is one thing that they're gonna have. Jamie Chadwell went off to Liberty. You know, we'll see how well he does there. Liberty's got a lot of money, so I wouldn't be really too surprised there for them to have success there as well. But I still think you have to put James Madison there as as champion until something changes here. Um, they just had a very good team last year. I think App State's going to rebound. I think Marshall's a little too high on this list here. They have Marshall ranked, I think, second. Uh, yeah, they got Coastal, then they got Marshall. Um, I mean, but Marshall didn't really throw the ball that well last year. Transferring. I think James Madison's gonna be one or two. I say Coastal should be two. Marshall should be three. Well, actually, I think App State's going to go up there and take 3 from Marshall. I think Marshall's going to finish 4th. Georgia Southern,
Starter.
they definitely went with a pass first approach last year. They did upset Nebraska last year. They beat James
On
Madison.
Nebraska, I'm not way.
But like App State's a rivalry game with Georgia Southern, so can you really like factor that in there? The Sunbelt could beat they could beat each other any week. Georgia State, they had a good 2021 season. Uh, they finished 4-8 last year with 5 of their last 8 coming with 1 score. They still got some pieces. Georgia State, I could see them finishing 6 again. Old Dominion, they only scored like 19.5 points per contest in 2022, so they're gonna have to improve that offense. They're gonna want to get better here. So they have a handful of transfers here. Um, they have preseason All-American Jason Henderson. He's going to anchor that defense. He, they finished 8th in the Sun Belt last year with 26.6 points allowed, but it's hard on the defense. The numbers could be better if your offense stays on the field longer. That's why ball control is
Mm-hmm.
important in football. That's just
Offense doesn't feel longer. The defense not to working hard.
yeah, it's exactly. So in the West Division, they got South Alabama being number 1, Troy being number 2, Southern Miss being
That's what
3,
I thought.
Cajuns being 4th, Arkansas State being 5th, Texas State being 6th, ULM being 7th. Now, what's interesting on the west side of what they put out here so far, I think Troy is definitely a team to beat in the West. Look, they returned a lot of their roster from last year. They only
Yeah, they
allowed
have pretty good team, right?
17.1. Look, so their top 2 receivers are gone. Gunnar Watson, he threw 12 interceptions last year, so he's got to try to tone that down for them to have to continue that success here. They ranked 8th in the Sun Belt in scoring, so they were 12-2, and it was the first year head coach. So you don't they I mean they finished 19th ranked last year. South Alabama returns a lot of people too. They returned the bulk of their roster as well, so they might get it. But I'm gonna say Troy. I say Troy over South Alabama because they've kind of been in these championship situations before. Troy's been their program. South Alabama hasn't broke that ceiling yet as a program for the Sun Belt to win anything. Um, they have to take a trip to Troy this year, so I'm not looking really too far with that one as well. Um, they did lose 10-6 to the Trojans last year, and they fell 32-31 to UCLA earlier in the year last year, but that's September. You're going to have the upsets in September. When we go do our college football week 1 picks for the top 25, we're going to throw some upsets in there because that's just the way it is in this business. So, um, I think the Cajuns, they have an easy schedule. Um, they said we were in a rebuilding year in 2022. We did lose a lot of guys, but a lot of people got left for the transfer portal and graduation and stuff like that. But it was our first losing record since 2017, which was during HUD. Never had a losing record under Napier. The schedule was easy. I think I'm gonna say this on the Raging Cajun preview show when we do it a couple of weeks from now. That if Michael Desimo doesn't win 8 games with this schedule here, we might need to look at maybe going a different direction with head coach. I'm just saying that's going to raise some eyebrows at the way the schedule is and how easy it is. It's some key swing games. You got Southern Miss coming in Louisiana. Um, it sucks. Like whoever was going to replace Napier was going to have it bad for them because he raised that bar so much in Louisiana that it was going to be really hard for whoever replaced him. Is he a scapegoat by Brian Mager? Maybe I don't know, but I don't think he was. I think they honestly believe he's the guy. The community likes him. He's a homegrown Acadiana boy. But your biggest when you look at a program, you start year 1, year 2. Year 2 is always bigger than year 1. Primary example: look at LSU baseball. Look at LSU women's basketball. And Brian Kelly's got a lot of expectations coming himself here. That's just some examples coming on here. What you think, Juicy?
I think for most part you're right. I mean, my top three for the East basically, I would. I don't think James Madison's gonna win that though. I think honestly, I do think App State's probably gonna win the East if you ask me. That's just my opinion because I think they're gonna be. I don't think they're gonna be down again this year. And the West, I think you'll have Troy and myself because Troy's got a lot of their roster coming back. Like you said, I like it with the experience and the quarterback. They just got to turn. If that quarterback can get those turnovers down, I think they'll really be a heck of a team to watch this year.
I mean, South Isle's going to give them a run, but there's one dark horse in the Sun Belt that I'm looking at this year, and that's Texas State. They got a transfer from Auburn, uh, TJ Finley.
Oh, TJ Finley, I forgot he went to.
Yeah, he's so that's a question, right? But we've seen SEC quarterbacks come into the Sun Belt and not do much, you know. They got a bunch of transfers coming in. TJ Finley. TJ Finley was at LSU at one point.
He had some good moments.
It's it's gonna, you know, Malik Hornsby from Arkansas and TJ Finley. So they're all in Texas State. They could really turn around this program possibly. And they're trying at San Marcos. They really want this to work here. Um, I just don't know. It's gonna be Texas State's definitely a dark horse that I'm keeping my eye on because they might be the shock team of the Sun Belt this year. Arkansas State, I don't think they're finishing fifth. I think Texas State's gonna go past them. I think they'll be sixth. I think Monroe gonna be yeah, I think they'll finish seventh here. But Wooldridge coming back here. I think if the Cajuns can get their offensive line like really gelled up early, ready to go, and not have that
That
debacle,
offensive line
for the offensive line wasn't good enough last
was
year.
still
Like they
real
got
bad.
better as the year went on. I don't think it was the
As
running
most
backs.
players, as most players and teams do throughout the season, they all kind of tend to gel up as the year goes further along.
Yeah, but like they wasn't really good at run blocking last year. I'm expecting that to really improve with the Cajuns this year. I think with a year under Desimo, they'll get more reps in, get familiarity with the offense. You got a brand new quarterback, a lot of brand new guys. That's
Cade is
why that's
also
why I'm
you know
saying that's why I'm saying I think he's gonna win 8 games this year because the schedule matches up. Them being a
the Cajuns
year in the
have been a run
system.
team too, though. So
Wait, what'd you see?
I said the Cajuns also are historically a run heavy team too. So they definitely need to be better with the offensive line.
Look, if Wooldridge, it would help the running game out. If Wooldridge can throw the ball down the field and stretch that defense, vertically, that would be a really good thing for them as well. I don't think the Cajuns are going to win the Sun Belt this year. We're gonna be there at every single game, trying to cheer them on to get it to win here. But hey, I think the Cajuns can win 8 or 9 games this year. I do
It's a
think that
possibility.
the way that if you look at their schedule here, it really sets up well.
They're gonna win
Um,
no less than 7 games, though. There ain't no way they can win no less than 7 games.
I mean, we're gonna have matchups in Old Dominion and Georgia State, so that's one thing that they combined at 7-17 last year, so they were not really good last year. Southern Miss is gonna be that new rival in the Sun Belt for the Cajuns because they've had history together. The Trey Amos and Cam Pedesclo, they both transferred out. Amos went to um Alabama, and which I mean, hey, says a lot right there. You losing players to Alabama, that's a good sign you're very talented because Nick Saban don't just take anybody over there. So I just don't know what's gonna happen there, but it should be an interesting season though. I think Troy, I think Troy's gonna win the whole thing again. They're either gonna It's either gonna be Troy or South Alabama. If I'm a betting man and I'm putting money down on them, I'm taking South Al or Troy. I think one of those guys, they end up winning the Sunbelt this year. I just don't see, but I think Texas State can make some noise in that West part here. I think the West is better than the East this year. I think that's something that you're going to
I got
see.
Troy and App State winning the East and the West.
I think it'd be really hard. Like James Madison, they came out with so much energy here. I think Madison's going to get it done again here. App State, I think we'll give them a run. It's just kind of wondering if is App State kind of slipping a little bit. I think that's one thing that they were 6-6 is their lowest win total since they came to FBS in 2014. Five of those six defeats came by one score. And Coastal and Marshall is going to be visiting Boone. So Coastal doesn't do good in Boone at all. They have some tough luck there. Uh, it's just going to be. I was surprised Grayson McCall didn't get out of Coastal. That would have really sunk Coastal, I think, this year. That's one thing but Arkansas State, they kind of fell off here, even with Butch Jones being over there. Um, it,
Ever since Gus,
yeah, Gus Malzahn was good for them for a while. Then Butch Jones, they were hoping that it came around. He might end up doing something here, but we don't know here. App State already sold out with their football atonement for season tickets and sold out the stadium. So um, we'll see what happens here.
Butch Jones gonna be gone too if they don't do nothing Arkansas State.
Yeah, that's something you have to watch out for. That's I I hate to say that, I really do, but I think that the people are going to be kind of watching that and be kind of angry. I want to give a coach 4 years. I think every coach deserves to have 4 years to turn a program around. I think that's the
Not
way.
this day and
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Not this day and age. They get like they're a little more chippy for sure. So like Coastal's 2-7 against App State. They haven't won at App State in Boone in any part of their history. So that's why I think that Coastal's going to end up losing one of these games here in Boone. Because they won in Conway last year and they won in 2020 in Conway. App State, they beat them 27-30 um, on October the 20th. 2019 they beat them 56-37. 2018 beat them 23-7. In 2017, 37-29. 55-14 in 2012, 06 and 05, 45-28, 30-3. But yeah, like that's been the trajectory of history though. It's really hard to overcome that kind of stuff, but we'll see what happens here. I think that who's the Sunbelt player of the year you think, Juicy? Like at the end of the year we look back, who do you think wins it?
man, I'm gonna say someone we talked about a little bit ago, Malik Hornsby out of Texas State. I bet he be
Oh really? You going with a transfer? Over Grayson
going to
McCall?
train. Uh,
You don't think Grayson McCall is gonna get it?
yeah, I think he'll give it a run, but I think it's gonna be a transfer. It's gonna get it.
I think Grayson gets it, dude. I just don't. Hornsby might take him a while to adapt to that offense. I'm not saying he's gonna be really bad or anything, but it's just one of those things. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for our Sunbelt Conference preview here of 2023. Anything you want to say, Juice, before we get off the air here?
No, I think that's it. I think
Unless
we
you want to talk
covered what
about
we want to
conference
talk about.
realignment, because we can go about conference realignment a lot because I think that's more of the pressing issue at the moment for sure. But so with the conference
To me, it's
realignment,
the most.
I think that window is closing though. I think in 2030, if you're not in a power five, well, not in power five anymore, it's gonna be a power three or two. I said power two. I'm gonna stay with it because I want to be consistent with myself from 2 years ago.
Hey,
When they,
yeah, yeah,
I think the payouts are just gonna be so humongous in these big leagues that these contracts can be huge. And here's what might end up happening too. These conferences like SEC and Big Ten might get so big that the payouts ain't worth it anymore, and that some teams in the SEC conference might actually jump ship and make more regionalized conferences.
That could happen.
They might get so big that they just can't hold all these teams in there, and then the money just kind of dwindles down. The more people, it's like you got 12 cookies in the cookie jar. You got to start breaking cookies in half to get more to feed more hands. If you got
You
20
know,
hands going for 12
you know,
cookies,
um, I was thinking earlier was on the subject of like coaches having how long they should get or what would be fair. Well, coaches we talked about a good example like Brian Kelly's gonna have pressure put on him for his second year, but I don't think like coaches in his situation aren't gonna be overly pressured because after this year there's gonna be a much more opportunity. I think that LSU will much easier make the playoffs when it goes to 12 teams. Like like coaches like him or Power Five coaches like in his situation will be able to. I mean, all they got to do is make number 12, and they can be in the playoffs, and that's it.
I don't know how the SEC is going to be able to do it if they if these conferences keep expanding. What you going to do with a conference championship game? Is there going to be some kind of playoff style within the regular season? Maybe they play 8 games and they jump into this weird kind of thing in the future. Maybe I don't know.
You
This
do
is
like
kind of
a
one.
you almost do like you almost have to do like a conference tournament, like a conference semifinal or something.
Yeah, that's basically what that might end up happening too. Like I said, I think there's going to be 50 teams, and if you're not in that 50, you're going to be in that FCS discussion here because, like, or you're going to be in a new branded FCS because everybody keeps talking about a new branded Conference USA. I think the G5, if you're in there right now, you need to get into a Big Three conference. I don't think sitting there with a regional conference is going to do you any good because you're going to have a lot more people trying to come down to come meet you, or they're going to be. This thing is far from over with. This is all speculation. I don't have any insight sources of how all this stuff's going to go, but the way it's looking, Florida State, Miami was talking about going to the Big Ten. Florida State maybe go to the SEC, might play Florida. Clemson and South Carolina would be a good
Make more,
rivalry to go into as well. Notre Dame, they're going to be forced to join a conference because they're going to get left out because that's going to force Notre Dame's hand too. Because if you're an independent, you're going to be stuck there, not able, like even if you have your own television deal, it's going to be more rougher on you to negotiate this. Well, we get better branded football than you trying to schedule independently because the conference is going to have all the say at some point because they're going to get so big that there's no point in them playing non-conference schedules. Notre Dame won't even have a choice
yeah,
anymore at that
playing
point.
straight conference. I
It's
think
just
Notre
going to
Dame's
be
gonna
maybe
get
a
let
straight
out.
conference schedule. And then if you win your conference, you go into your Big 12 championship tournament or your SEC championship tournament or your Big Ten championship tournament. You might have 4 teams from each of those here. You get what? Guess what it is? Exactly 12 teams. 4, 8, and 12 right there. If you're in the top 4 of that conference, you all qualify for the national championship tournament, the playoff. I mean
Cause
that's one that's why I think there's gonna either be two or three. It's gonna depend on what happens there. Maybe
no,
your top
Notre Dame,
six of your big.
the three that are gonna be left are gonna be the SEC, the Big Ten, and the Big 12. Only because the Big 12 expanded
I don't
are
know if
still
the Big
coached more.
12 is even gonna make it, to be honest with you. Because I could see the Big Ten going in there and raiding some northern teams from the Big 12 because they have some trouble with that coming up here.
Well, it would make sense for Notre Dame to join the Big Ten too because they're in South Bend, Indiana anyway.
Yeah, I mean they would fit right in there. It's gonna force their hand. Like your independents, G5s, you're gonna have to get in one of these 3 conferences if you want to play for the biggest national championship, basically. It's you know what, nobody might say that, but that's really the reality of the situation here. There's nothing wrong with it. That's just the way it is. I don't know what else to even say about that though, because everybody, it's like, but I also think the counterpoint to having these super conferences is you got like I've said before, you have so many people going for so few spots. They might implode on themselves because the money's not there anymore. And that's when these lower conferences, if they somehow have a system where they're able to compete in this system and keep up, it might work in their favor. They might, even if they do become like the new FCS, they could be invited to go and replace those other teams. Almost have like a promotion and demotion kind of thing like they do in soccer.
Mm-hmm.
That might end up happening that kind of way. Which I think in 2030 or when the next round of these realignments is done, when the next TV deals start going around, it's gonna be a way different ball game. The money's gonna dictate everything. That's all what's gonna happen. So we'll see here. Juice, you want to say anything before we get off the air here?
No, I think we're good.
All right. Thank you all for tuning into the Fishbowl Radio here. I hope you have a great and wonderful day. We'll see y'all next time here on the Fishbowl. Join us next week as we talk about the SEC uh, preview, and we'll do some more realignment talk and see what happens there. So thank y'all. Have a great and wonderful day.
Good night, sister.